already a month and a half late, so leaving it any later than that feels ridiculous. But hello and welcome back to book 13. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, before we start talking about this book, how pleased were we that Armageddon Out of Here is getting new stories so that we can get some more skullduggery just after we think it's going to finish?
I got so excited because I was like, my denial can last another few more months.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited and also really pissed off because the series is just going to fit on one of the shelves of my Billy bookcase.
Mm-hmm.
And then this motherfucker comes along and is like, oh yeah, I'm going to republish the same book. And I'm like, where the fuck is it going to go?
I really want to get, because mine fits perfectly, because I've got new shelves and I've got the wider Billy bookcases ones. They will fit, and then there's space either side. And I was like, you watch me get like a skull to just go on the shelf with it, like some proper because you can't see from there, but I've got like this whole gothic corner thing going on at the moment that just makes my heart very happy. And I plan on doing like a skullduggery corner, especially because Lizzie, who isn't able to join us because she has an actual social life today, also has quite a few of the books. So it's just going to be like one long shelf of skullduggery and like knickknacks.
I love that.
Well, I've already given up on trying to fit it all on one shelf because the hardcovers are that much too tall to fit, which means they have to go on a separate shelf anyway. And it means I've got a small bit of space, but I can't put the hardcovers in there. And it's just like... Why?
I'm going to use my hardcover to defend it, I think, because I've only got one, and then I'm going to get the other one. Yeah.
Well, I just reorganized my shelves, and for starters, I did not realize how much I don't read anything other than science fiction fantasy. But secondly, I moved the skullduggery shelf. So if you remember, it was like here. Mm-hmm. It's now on the shelf back and one shelf down. However, the reason for that is I organized all of my SFF books alphabetically by surname of author.
Okay.
And I was still able to fit all the skullduggery books all together. I managed to work it so that they are just on a shelf, just skullduggery. So I still have my skullduggery shelf. And then I was like, the other sections can be for like all the other genres I read. And I have a classic shelf, a non-fiction shelf, which to be fair are both full. Mm-hmm. And then other, which is just one shelf.
Other. I love that.
Which is historical fiction and contemporary.
Yeah, that tracks. When you said earlier that you only read science fiction and fantasy, my gut instinct was to go, but you can read classics too, and then whatever those other things are that you think are classics.
Look, they work on the shelf, right?
It was so it really tickled me, right? Because what tickled me most about that video, so for context, for anyone watching this or watching this later, Abby did a really great video where they went through like their shelves and like specifically their classics and the classics that they've read and haven't read and all these different things. And there were quite a few books in there that are prominent literature. They are literature. They are not classics because they are just like they're not part of like the classic canon, or they were only written in the last 5 years. And Abby's like, and I've got this classic and this classic, and my gut reaction was to be like, it's not a classic though. And especially as a literature major talking to a geography major, I'm like, what killed me?
I was gonna say, like, to give me some kudos, like I've got a geography undergrad and a geology postgrad. Mm-hmm. Like, I have no
You're a
clue.
scientist, and I absolutely, that's why it tickled me so much, right? But then what really tickled me is the fact that my flatmate and Lizzie, who obviously helps co-host this usually, like came to me and was like, Abby does know those aren't classics, right? And I was like, yeah, I know. Like, both of us had because she did basically the same course I did, which is literature with creative writing, and we both had the same reaction of, that's not a classic though. Like, that's not a classic. So
look, I'm aware the one you mentioned that you were like published in the last 5 years, 2 of them are the sequels to To Kill a Mockingbird and The Handmaid's Tale.
Mm-hmm.
To Kill a Mockingbird, I think, I don't know, is like actually towing the line between like literature and classic because it was written a while ago.
I think it's described like I think it's I think it's described as an American classic. And American classics are treated slightly differently in literature anyway, because that can be anything up to the 60s, because so much of America's history is recent. Versus like a British classic will be like Shakespeare, Austen, Dickens, like it'll be at least 200 years old. And whereas like an American classic, like for example, Lolita is an American classic, right? But they're usually not in like a classic section. They're usually in a vintage section, which is slightly different. So things like that, like fair enough. I would argue, having studied Handmaid's Tale, that's not a classic. That is literature, and it's literary fiction. It's a dystopia.
Yes, the thing is, it's not a classic, as in like I think it's currently next to War and Peace or something. It's not a classic, but it is a classic.
Yeah,
and I'm like, is anyone actually going to complain? Like that's out of like my friends that aren't like literature people. No, I don't have any IRL. I have no IRL friends who do English bar 1, and she doesn't give a damn.
No.
So it's like, yeah, if anyone's going to come and see that like 99% of them are going to be scientists of some form, it's fine. They're not going to realize.
It just really tickled me because it was a YouTube video. If it had been like that you were sat there chatting to me, I was, yeah, no, I'm sorry. We will get there. We will stop talking about skullduggery soon. I have these banners that are like non-spoiler and spoiler discussion. When those rock up, that's when you know we start talking about skullduggery. In the meantime, I am roasting Abby because she doesn't understand what a classic is. So,
also, can I just say, Caitlin is that's Caitlin, and she's currently studying English.
Oh, there you go.
At uni, so she agrees with you. She's joining in the roast from her living room. So don't worry.
I'm pleased, and I'm glad to meet you because I love to meet someone that's going to be on my side immediately. There you go. So that tickled me. Okay, so in which case, yeah, good point. Let's talk. I actually so usually I have my like little notebook. I couldn't find the notebook because obviously I've moved house and I can't find anything, but I have my Gothtober pad. Nice. I was like scribbling things on. So I have a few things, but I listened to the last 200 pages as an audiobook like in an afternoon and like fell asleep to it basically. So my notes stop rather abruptly. So I'm going to put the non-spoiler banner on first, and we can discuss like thoughts, like general thoughts and what rating we gave it. Now I core-piled this one because there are certain tropes in this that we have discussed before that I don't like, and it still came out as a 4. It's still an absolute solid skullduggery book. So Abby, what did you give it upon a reread?
I think I gave it 4 as well, but I will double check because I also use core-pile. So I'll load that up whilst Becca gives her answer.
Fair. And Becca?
I also core-piled it and it came out as a 4.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
So all of us are hoes for G. Good to know.
We are hoes for G. Is there anyone on this on this entire platform that isn't, like, in seriousness?
No. Apparently I gave it a 4.5.
Okay.
That's solid.
I've read a lot of books already this year. I don't remember why I gave it those ratings, but I did. I enjoyed it, and the thing is, it always bumps it up. Whenever I do core-pile for skullduggery, the first column is characters, where you put in a score from 1 to 10 about the characters. And for Skullduggery Pleasant, that always just automatically gets a 10. Because.
Yeah, no, that's valid. I didn't give characters a 10 because there are a couple of characters where I feel like their motivations just get totally lost in the convenience of a plot twist. And I think you can almost guarantee what I'm talking about before I even say it if you've read the book. But I'm just trying to keep it non-spoilers because the non-spoiler discussion thing is still up. But we can move on to spoilery bits and then work through my list. And then if you guys have any other things you want to add, like, please feel free. So first on my list is the satanic worshippers that are not worshipping Satan in that opening few chapters. Wild. Loved it. Loved it.
So funny. Because, like, it's so nice to see the other morally grey, like, wizards kind of thing, what they're doing. and how they're screwing people over for money.
My favourite thing, my complete favourite thing is that they're like, ah yes, we're gonna deck out this like place where we sacrifice young humans in like bones and skeletons and creepy things, and fucking skullduggery's just hung there like, this is undignified. This is a decoration.
Yeah, this is undignified. That was good. That was good.
My one thing with it was that they ripped R.I.P.D. the movie in that scene, and I was like, excuse you, I like that film.
R.I.P.D.
It's called a like Friday night movie in our house. It's a ridiculous action movie, usually with either Ryan Reynolds or The Rock in it. You turn off your brain and you can pick holes in it if you want to, but mostly you're just like, ha, action. You know, like, ha.
Are you just describing the entire Marvel franchise?
No, they're not Friday night movies.
Oh, okay.
Friday night movies is stuff like San Andreas, The Day After Tomorrow, that kind of thing.
Purposefully shit.
Yeah.
Like, you go into it watching it like, this is a shit movie, I'm gonna love it.
Yeah.
For example, last weekend, I ended up having to watch, because it was on telly, when we were over at my mother-in-law's house, A Knight's Tale.
Love that film. Love that film. Now that's a classic.
That is a classic movie.
But do you not agree with me that it would go in a Friday night box?
No, I feel like that to me is more of like a cult classic. Like there are people that are fucking obsessed and people who don't know anything about it. I feel like it falls into that kind of category. And I think the thing that I find bizarre with that film is it feels like it should be a fantasy, not a historical drama, right? Because they've got so many like historical inaccuracies and stuff like that, and then really incongruous music. Like, why are they dancing to Golden Years? Like just randomly, and I loved it.
At one point,
I like zoned out for a minute because the nurse was round for my mother-in-law, so we were like, "Oh, help me out!" And I tuned back in, and they're like, I don't know, Queen's playing, and I'm like, what's going on?
I love it. Say that again.
Just watch it for Paul Bettany like I do.
Oh no, I watch it for Alan Tudyk. Alan Tudyk is a hero.
We had recently finished WandaVision when we watched it. So Chris eventually came downstairs. He'd been like sorting some stuff out in the bedroom. And he came down and I was like, he's like, what? I don't want to watch whatever crap's on there. I'm like, it's Vision! Look at it!
We watched A Knight's Tale the day WandaVision episodes 1 and 2 aired because I was like, I need more Paul Bettany. I need more Paul Bettany. We're going to go watch this movie. And I've had a crush on him ever since.
Have you seen the new film that's coming out that's got him? It's like a very English Scandal or something like that, where it's him and Claire Foyle, who like plays the Queen. So basically, it's based on like a real couple, I think, and basically, so you have seen it or haven't?
I haven't seen it, no, but I know the story of it.
Yeah. So the trailer makes him look like a dick. And I'm just like, why am I more attracted to you now than like this? Why is that my thing?
We already knew that was your thing, Hannah.
I know, but like, why? I need to go to therapy. That's what I've decided.
We already also knew that.
Yeah, we knew that, dude. I just can't afford therapy. Therapy's expensive.
It is. Yeah. I wrote down last time for whatever book was before this one. Bedlam? Yes. A little note.
Oh yeah, I remember the note now.
And I wrote down, this was basically something that ended up being in here that I got like mistaken. I was like, no, I'll save it. So I wrote down Owen being tricked by the teens. So this is when the kids who are in like Abyssinia's gang trick him, versus Flannery being tricked by Crepuscular when he kind of turns on him in the Oval Office. I got mixed up, and in here is where Owen and Crepuscular meet. And I thought that Owen was taking after Crepuscular. I thought it was like mirroring it. And it was not, because they haven't met.
No.
So that's what I mentioned last time.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that scene was kind of heartbreaking because I know that's kind of what Derek Landy is doing. He's just fucking with me because there'll be moments where I'm like, Omen is finally going to get his hero moment. And even though he knows what he's doing could end in disaster, he does it anyway. And lo and behold, disaster doth strike. Like, it just gets me every time.
That scene with him at the beginning in the prison, though, where he's talking to the one who stabbed Olga, I forgot his name. I was like, because he's sitting there going, I just want you to have closure. And I was like, you are too pure for this world.
Like, he's precious. He's
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you remember when we he first rocked up and I was like, who the fuck is this kid? I don't care about him. Now I would die for him.
You're like, who is this kid? I'm like, you leave my little Omen alone.
Well, that's the thing. It's like at the time I remember, like, from the first time that he rocked up, I was like, why do I care about this kid? Like, genuinely, like, why should I care about this kid? And Derek Landy was like, don't worry, I'll give you reasons.
Just you wait.
Yeah. For context, we've just finished Dead or Alive. So.
I know. Well, this is the thing, right? So because I had COVID, we're all late because of me, and it's been sat there tempting me since day dot. And I read this 6 weeks ago. I've been ready. Oh, and I got this copy specifically so that I could read and annotate, because I'm not scribbling on my pretty hardback that's signed.
Oh, this isn't annotated, it's just tabbed.
Oh no, not even tabbing it. But no,
I couldn't resist when I figured out that my tabs were the same purple as the sprayed edge.
No, I do enjoy
like
that on the side of it. You've got the what's it? The scythe guy turned back. What are they called?
Rippers?
Oh, the Rippers.
Yeah, it's back.
Cleavers,
Rippers. Yeah, whoever. There was something I was gonna say regarding Omen, but it's gone. Anyway, might as well whilst it's here on my list. So Omen's parents are the fucking worst.
Oh, of course, yes. Mm-hmm.
That conversation they have with him where they turn around and be like, oh yeah, your life's been really easy up until now. I was like, I'm going to stab you in the face. It's like,
I was like, let me adopt you because I will kill your parents and I'll take you on myself.
Me and Abby had this conversation. I keep on pointing at you. I mean to point this way. I'm confused which way around I'm still going. How long have we been doing this? Over a year. Still can't figure out which way I'm going. But me and Abby were talking about this, saying the Edgeleys should adopt Omen and Olga because they would love him and they would treat him with respect.
Yeah. And
they would love them to death.
And he'd finally be the son that Desmond wanted, even though he keeps joking that he didn't have girls. Like, I can't remember which book it is, but he jokes where he was really disappointed that Valkyrie came out a girl because he wanted a son or something stupid like that.
But also, we were also discussing this. What if Gordon had met Omen? He would have absolutely loved him. He would have written him.
He'd have like been like, you poor sap, and he would have like I feel like he would have probably bullied him, not like maliciously, but like just a little bit, in the same way that Skullduggery does. Yeah, I
think that Gordon would have basically done the same arc that you did, Hannah, of starting out being like, this kid is so pitiful.
Yeah.
And then at the end being like, you get away from my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like he would have written an entire series about him.
Yeah.
He would have written an entire series about him and made him famous instead of Olga, and then gone, there you go. Off you go.
I want to write a book with a character, not necessarily like Omen, but that gives a reader the same emotional attachment I have with Omen now, because that precious boy, and I know because I care about him, something horrible is going to die. Like, someone's going to die, something that matters to him, he's going to die, something's going to happen. I'm still convinced that he is Beakface. What's his name?
Sebastian.
Yeah, I'm still convinced. At least he's got like the mask, right? So.
Sebastian Tao, yes, that's his actual name rather than Beakface.
Yeah, I'm convinced that's Omen. Especially because like the way that Sebastian speaks to Darkess is so similar to the way Omen speaks to Valkyrie. Of just like, yeah, okay, well, I didn't really want to be a dad, but I could be a dad. I guess I could be. Oh yeah, spoiler alert. Darkess is having a baby. Why? And then just like that ending where she's just like, this is me now. And then baby, what?
And then like gives birth whilst merging into baby.
Yeah, that was weird.
Let me just say that is the one point where I'm glad that this doesn't have any sort of visual adaptation.
Oh god.
No. So I reckon if they did something like that, it would be suddenly bright white light and then there's a baby, as opposed to like you know?
But the would be more fun.
It would be, but
they'd have to try and figure out how to do that though.
Yeah. Animators can do amazing things nowadays.
That's true. They can do it in animation. But I want to say with this one, like the main thing in this is that they're in the other reality. What do you think of it? And everything that went on? Because
I was right. Tanith became one of the dead men. I was like, yes, finally. I was happy about that. I wasn't happy about who died over there.
Yeah, that was hella depressing.
Yeah.
Let's go step by step.
Yeah, sorry.
Before we get to the death, can we just establish X-ray fucking vision?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what you were joking about months ago. When
Yes,
we
I have been waiting so long. Every time that bastard is mentioned, you guys are like, I wonder what it is. Like, does he not have an extra like sense? And I'm like, bitch, you can see through walls because he was a horny teenager.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what's really funny? That was one of the other things that my brother spoilt for me, which is why I'm kind of glad that I don't live with him now, so I can't have the last book spoilt for me. Because there's like quite a bit from Dead or Alive that has already been spoilt for me, unfortunately. Because he just got really like. Kieran is very chill. He's very chill. So when he gets agitated, he's very fucking agitated. And one of the things that he spoiled for me was that his ability with that he could see through walls, and the fact that he was like, I never tell anyone what it is, not to be mysterious. That's just kind of like a plus side. But because the moment you realize what my ability is, you think I'm a freak. Like, it's just that whole thing really tickled me. And I think it's still like really helpful. I also really love that Skullduggery is like, oh, I worked that out ages ago. Like, it could only have been two things. And the fact that that guy was poisoning you to stop you reading his mind, and then you weren't reading his mind, I was like, well, it could only be the other thing. And then he stopped poisoning you. So
I mean, it's a handy thing to have. Like, it's like when you're trying to, do this sort of mission, it's a handy skill.
Yeah.
It's just that's not why he got it.
But at the same time, Dexter falling out with him for not telling him for so many years, it was like, really, the two of you were so petty. But
Yeah.
I love
They've known each other years, though. Like, they are going to be petty. And I really like the idea that, like, in quite a traditional way, these people that have lived for a really long time are also massive fucking children because they haven't had to mature because they don't age. Like, they just continue day after day after day. They don't learn anything. Like, they just are who they are. And I really like that. But it does make it hella sad when they die. And also just the way he died was so kind of... Have you guys seen the film I Am Legend?
Yeah.
Okay, the bit with the dog.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about this. Like, that whole thing, it was
But
really
just the fact that it was Dexter. It was like, let's go for a walk. And Tanith's just in denial, like, they're going on a walk, they're going on a walk, they're going.
Yeah.
Like, Tanith, we all know.
Speaking of Tanith and relationships, though, a boyfriend who's not a boyfriend, but maybe, I don't know, would she call me a boyfriend? She doesn't really talk to me about that kind of stuff. Killed me. Deceased.
Oh, yeah. You gotta love Tanith and just how sort of non-committal she is in everything.
Well, it's the fact that even this guy that is rumored to be like really fucking good looking, and they're just like kind of seeing each other, and he's like, I know, I know Tanith, and he's like, okay, well, I'm her boyfriend. I don't know. Was she referred to me as a boy? We're not that close. I just love that whole like interaction. Just really tickled me.
Definitely.
What did you think of Man with the Hand? What's his? Is it Serpine?
Serpine.
Yeah.
Aye. What did you think of?
I wrote down Return of Serpine. He's a bit pathetic.
Isn't he always though?
Well, this is the thing. It's like because he's like the big bad in book one. He's kind of had. I need to stop making so many fucking references to other things, but it just helps me process what it is. He reminds me of Spike, but not in like a sexy way, but in a way that like when he first rocks up, he's a genuine threat, and then the more he shows up, the less threatening he is. And like when they're having like the big fight towards the end, and he's like fighting on their side and kind of doing some stuff, he still doesn't really feel like a threat. And I like that he brought the news of the plague and like the way that he has some tie over there and like some information over there was really interesting. But the fact that the moment they're over there, he is basically obsolete. And then when they cut his hand off, it's just a bit brutal. So yeah, that was all a bit.
I liked with that scene where they cut his hand off that you kind of get the multiple viewpoints because it's not really done that way, but like you understand why Skullduggery is like, okay, not only just because obviously this is a different universe's version of the person who killed his wife and kids, but also just like, well, he's a villain. It's a weapon that can be used against us, and it does belong to the Necromancy Order, technically. Like, he stole the secrets from them. What's the negative? But then Townley's there like, that's his fucking hand. What are you doing? And I liked that we kind of had both perspectives on it of being like, the fuck?
I like also seeing just how dark Skullduggery can go without going dark in that sense. You can just see how morally grey he can sometimes get and like how he's like means to an end. Let's go for it.
Yeah, he is very like, and I think all of his bravado and jokes are a really like authentic way of hiding how fucked up he is, because it really is. And like there's a moment where, and I can't remember if it's in this book or the previous one, where, and I think it is Serpine, basically turns to Valkyrie and goes, the moment you are not useful to him, or you are not like his buddy or whatever it is, like he'll find someone else. And like you see it in the way Crepuscular talks to Omen as well. It's just like, yeah, that used to be me. And one day this will be Valkyrie. She'll have moved on, and because she'll have to. And it's just like, oh.
But at the same time, I do think he cares more deeply about Valkyrie than anybody else. In that sense, I do think he'd go like he wouldn't just sort of find someone new immediately after Valkyrie, because he does care for her a bit more. But I think it's more like, yeah, I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. Interesting. What are your thoughts, Abby? Seeing as you brought it up.
Are you trying to figure out?
Yes, I'm figuring things out.
Okay.
She's like trying to be like, okay, yes, no, I swear.
Do you need to message?
I can't remember if this bit's okay.
Do you want to message me and figure out if this bit's okay? Because I'm all caught up with you now.
I'm going to ask. At the end, how is he coping with his arm having been chopped off?
Didn't Valkyrie grow it back?
Thank the fucking Lord. Yes. So.
Like, I was like, that's not a shock to anyone, Abby. It's okay. It's in this book. Because like,
I don't know that.
She spends the entire book basically doing a rogue and just picking up everyone else's abilities for like 5 minutes. And I mean rogue from the comics, not for rogue from the films, where she just touches people and they die. So
poor film Rogue.
I like film Rogue in a way.
I like her, but like I'm sad for her.
I used to love those films, but the more superhero films come out, the more I hate those films.
Childhood autistic brain loves them.
No, that's fair.
But I thought that was really kind of her. And I think was like a direct contrast to Skullduggery in like the separate points in time of like Skullduggery was like, don't give a shit. Towneth is like, well, no, you just can't chop off his hand, and Val's like, right, well, just fix it.
Well, this is the thing, is I don't ever get the impression that with Skullduggery it wasn't that he didn't give a shit, but that he has a very logical.
He weighed it up.
Yeah.
It feels.
But yeah, like Valkyrie. You know what? Sure, Valkyrie was just like, I'll fix it.
In some ways, I feel like Valkyrie is, I don't want to say the human element, but she's sort of like the human element to Skullduggery in the sense that she's like, yeah, we could fix this, so I will, kind of thing.
But they do that for each other, because it's not just like in this book, sure, and in that moment, it's Valkyrie fixing Skullduggery's problems, humanizing what Skullduggery has done. But let's not count the number of times he's done that for her. Like, what I thought was really interesting, what I thought was really interesting is when they are in that alternate universe, and obviously Vile is still Vile, her reaction to him and the fact that he causes essentially a panic attack just because she hasn't got Dark S to rely on to, like, fight him. was really
Yeah,
interesting.
a different story when they don't have someone on their own side, or even just someone to distract him that they can like rely on.
Loved Tanith's response of oh like it's like, oh my god, he's him, and then like shit, everyone he killed. Like it's like that kind of like maths thing.
I would have loved to have
And
seen
also
her.
that entire
You go first.
so that entire thing where Val comes and saves Tanith and Skullduggery at the end. I can tell you right now, the first time I read through this, I was confused as shit. I don't know why, but I like the bit where like essentially she went and got the version of Nai in this reality to like give her some sort of sigil to be able to transform into this woman. That just like that happens off page completely without any discussion. And my first read through of it, I was like, what the fuck has happened? How is what, how, when, where, whom, how did this happen? When did this occur? How is this supposed to make sense? And I'm still, even on reread, slightly mad that someone didn't catch that in editing. Because it's just going to be like a little, like, because I reread it knowing that it happened. And so it made a lot more sense. But like still rereading it, I was like, yeah, no, that needs to be addressed. Like they don't even vaguely mention it. Like
no,
I did like enough that it's gonna fool him. What's his name?
Meretricia?
Malevolent.
Malevolent.
The fact that
Malevolent.
it's gonna be good enough to fool Malevolent. Like that's not just, you know, like Skullduggery's little face thing, or the same thing that they did for Ghastly where it covers up his scars. Like that's a big sigil, and they just don't fucking mention it. I'm still annoyed.
Stories in Armageddon out of here too. I wouldn't be surprised.
So
What if it's in Armageddon out of here?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a short story in Armageddon out of here too. Because let's be honest here, this book was a chunk, so he may have just had to cut that bit out.
No, I don't think that was a cut out. I think that was a here's payoff. Forgot to set it up.
Yeah, I think that he should have like mentioned it slightly, like even just like inquiring, or like if he's like doing it to someone else, and they're like petrified because they can see Val there, and they're like, oh my god, someone knows I'm here. Shit. And he's like, well, I need to test this to make sure it works, and changes them into someone else. Like that would he's always doing weird shit. You could have done that. But instead, I was just confused as fuck. To the point where I ended up tweeting him about it when I read this the first time.
And did he respond?
Yes, that's how I knew it happened.
Oh.
Because he didn't tell me. I was like, what is this? Someone explain.
What is this?
So I'm when you know that and like rereading it, knowing it, so in other words, kind of having the setup in my head, even though I don't, a lot better. But I think that should have been caught in editing. Which is a pity.
Interesting. Becky, you were going to say something else as well before we started talking about that.
I was going to say, when Tanith finds out Skullduggery is vile, I would have loved to have seen a scene for her to go, wait a minute, he killed Ghastly's parents. And just to have that moment, because obviously she had that connection with Ghastly and Ghastly never knew. So I think I would have liked her to go, wait a minute, he killed the person I love's parents and he hasn't like paid for this kind of thing.
I think that to me is implied and certainly implicit in the oh, right? Because I feel like it isn't just Ghastly. And yes, she had strong feelings for Ghastly and she was devastated when she found out about him and was like mourning the loss more than just like the romance of it. I think for her, she will have known a lot of people who were affected or were killed by Vile, because Vile killed so many people. And her O was really, like, it was fun to read, but it is a powerful thing because as a reader, you know that. And as a reader, you know about Ghastly's parents, and you know that Ghastly went to his grave never knowing this truth that she now has. And it's really interesting, just as a reader, how much you can put into the book for your own perspective. So having it as just those two O's, I think, is far more powerful than if she had sat there and just gone, oh, but long list of people that he had.
Yeah,
Like,
good
you know what I mean? Because we already know that. As a reader, we already know that vile is vile, right? So there is a kind of like a thing to that. Back to my list and something slightly cheerier, the Apostles of Darkess. Worst apostles ever, maybe?
Probably.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it was a good idea to bring her back, full stop. Don't think that was a good idea. Don't think they thought that through. I'm intrigued to know why, but then literally just having her hang out in a house, I just don't, like, what's the plan here? Anyone? Excuse me.
But here's a question. Who's worse, the Apostles of Darkess or the celebrities who were killing people at the beginning of the book? Who's the worst?
The celebrities are idiots, right? Because their whole thing is like, oh, but like he was helping us get famous, and it's like, okay, so he needed maybe one contact to get you an audition, and you killed people. As opposed to the apostles that like are almost like the faceless church, but a little less culty, and just kind of like we think she should have come back to like save us, kind of thing.
I think the celebrities are worse because even though they want like a mass murderer, I suppose, in Darkess to come back, they want her back because of their own ideals. They don't actually want her back. They want back what she represented and like the power that she like seemingly holds. Basically, they worship her like a god. Mm-hmm. Like it's made pretty clear. They basically treat her like a religion. And when she actually comes back, they're like, what the fuck do we do? Versus these celebrities that are not even celebrities and murdering in cold blood people to get a slightly better chance at a job. Like, none of them have even got anything like remotely fancy out of this. Like, he's not been able to convince any of the right people. He's just made little suggestions here and there. And they've continued to murder people. Like, they shouldn't have murdered someone anyway. They should have been like, well, prove it first. And then been like, oh, great, I got half an interview. Nah, that ain't doing it. They're just quite happy to kill people. So they're worse, in my opinion. Because the Darkess lovers don't actually technically want her back, even though they do. They just want to worship her as a powerful being. And they also really don't like her killing people. They're like, no, don't hurt anyone.
No.
I can't remember. Is this the one where Sebastian actually physically goes and gets her, or was that the previous book?
I feel like he went and got her in the last one, and she's just been like hanging out at the house here. Because I feel like the last book ended with him like coming back and her just being like, all right, fine.
Just on that note, can you visualize right now a man in a plague doctor costume, full decked out on a little moped?
It made me so happy. It made me so happy. And to think that that's Omen. Like, I just loved
we don't know for sure that's Omen.
I'm convinced, Becca. And like, thing is, the reason, like, other reasons that I'm convinced, right, is that the fact that he's like, am I annoying you? I'm sorry if I'm annoying you. Please don't kill me. I'm sorry if I'm being annoying. And she's like, I don't find you annoying. In the same way that Valkyrie doesn't find Omen annoying. You know, she finds him somewhat charming.
I'm going to say the tiniest of spoilers for Dead or Alive. Like, it's minuscule. It's minuscule. I promise it's minuscule. Mm-hmm. We don't get any confirmation for who Sebastian Tao is.
Oh no, I don't expect that until the last book, to be honest.
Well, so that's what I meant by minuscule. I promised it was minuscule. So we have I can say that, like, I still don't know. Because we've not read the last one yet. And I have never even considered, like, my tiny little brain when I was reading this series through myself, never even considered that Omen would have been Sebastian. I love this theory. I really want you to be right.
I really want to be right too. Or imagine if I was like wrong,
so that I can be like, yes, I love it.
Yeah.
So, and you don't think
no, that's fine. Imagine if I was wrong, but only like this much, and actually it's not Omen. It's either like Olga or Never or someone like that that's actually like behind the mask. Speaking of which,
it's Never, you'll kick off.
Mate, I will burn. Oh, I won't burn them. I won't burn them. I won't even unhaul them. I'll just be annoyed. But like, never. I didn't like Never in the last one. This one, Never can get in the fucking sea. The way she abandons Omen and then fucking starts dating Augur, and it's like we all saw it coming, right? Like
And
we
he
all
doesn't
saw
even
that,
tell
like.
Owen.
Doesn't even tell him. I'm sorry, if I fancy your sibling and we've been friends forever, they're not friends, like Never is not a good friend, and it makes me really angry. And I assume this is why I feel so protective of Omen, is because the people who are supposed to love him treat him like shit. Even Augur should have said something. And I get that for Augur, it's more difficult because he has spent his entire life training to be the chosen one. Having a life outside of being the chosen one was never allowed. So even with your sibling, you might not want to risk saying something like that out loud, let alone like sexuality and stuff like that, right? Ignoring that massive elephant in the room and just focusing on who he is, who he has been raised to be. There are going to be things that he will find difficult to talk to Omen about. And we've even seen that previously where like Omen was like, oh, I asked him how such and such a mission was. And he said he was fine. And it's like, he's limping. And like, there are secrets that Augur has kept. Never is just a shit friend. If you fancy anyone watching, if you fancy your friend's sibling, just straight up tell them. Just tell them. Because that is the worst way to find out. I hated it. It made me so angry.
I don't blame Augur at all for not telling Omen, because it's not his job. It's Never's job. Like, Never is Omen's friend. Like, Augur is Omen's twin. They will forever be linked. They don't have a choice. Like, I think we all know Omen has no fucking choice, and neither does Augur. But like, it was Never's choice to go, okay, this person that I've like decided to be friends with, I really like their twin brother. That's the thing as well, like, they're twins. They're really close in age. So I can't remember if they're identical or not. But even if they're not identical, they're gonna look damn similar.
I think they're fraternal, not identical, because people confuse them, but they quickly realise like who they are.
They're gonna look damn similar. And like, we all know like what Omen is capable of. And for Never to then, like, I understand that like that happens in real life with twins and with friends of twins and stuff. And like, it's harsh, and I get that it happens, but like, the least you can fucking do is tell them.
Yeah, it was brutal. And never bailing on the hug made me angrier though, not gonna lie.
Oh yeah. But the thing is, Never didn't even tell Omen either that she was going off on adventures with Augur in the first place.
Nah.
They just sort of have their own life, and Omen is essentially there when they want to talk to someone, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Omen he's in the situation where he's only considered their friend when they want them to be.
Mm-hmm. When's convenient.
They're not their friend. Yeah, they're not their friend any other time. When it's inconvenient, when they've got other stuff to do, when it doesn't serve their own agenda.
And because Omen's got no self-esteem, he just takes it. Because he's
you can see that by the way he's manipulated by those kids that literally tried to kill him.
Mm.
Like, yeah, that's loads of self-esteem. Good work, bud. Like, and I think that's why I find it so frustrating, because Never spends so much of their time being like, I'm your friend because I have these like reasons to be your friend, blah 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 blah. But you irritate me all the time. You do all these things that are really shit, and I'm like, then you're not a friend, are you? Like, and I kind of feel like it feels to me very kind of like Never has always only been friends with Omen to get to Augur. Like, it's very convenient to me that they're like this relationship is kind of formed now, because like one of the things that comes up about Never a lot is just how many partners they've had or have, whereas Omen was or is the chosen one. And thing is, like, now Augur is now dealing with the aftermath of that. Like, everything happened a year earlier. The bad guy was killed. I don't know if that's going to come up again, so I'm just like hedging my bets. So at the end, he's got stuff to deal with, and it's never
also
like,
he was even younger. he was like Olga was even younger when he committed murder.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of who you're killing, regardless of if they need it, like if they need to be killed to save everyone else, that's still going to screw most people up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's the first time that you've ever killed someone, which in this
Yeah.
series obviously is a momentous occasion. It's like, oh, the first one? Wow, I'm up to 72. But
I've been here for ages.
but like this is the first person, like the first person in his life he's ever killed.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, in this world, is a thing. And he's a year younger. Like at that age, you develop so much in 1 year. Like
Mm-hmm.
the amount of PTSD that he will have from that versus if it had happened when they thought it was going to.
But the thing is, well,
Fast.
his whole identity has been around this moment as well. He has based his entire identity around killing the King of the Darklands. And the problem is that his parents have also done that. They haven't encouraged him to find out who he'll be afterwards. He's starting to wonder during this book or the previous book just what he's going to do afterwards. And he thought he had a year. And now it's, boom, it's happened. You've now murdered someone. You're now not the chosen one. So he's now got to deal with the PTSD of killing someone. And he's got to worry as well about how his parents are going to react, because his parents are now going to treat him differently because he's now not the chosen one and they're going to panic.
Well, yeah, because they have been riding high on that. They've used that as a commodity.
Have all of their like worldly connections with plans for another year. And the thing is, what frustrates me is that if they had been good parents, then they still could have had these opportunities and developed this more. Because if they'd been good parents and raised Olga and Omen properly and well and with care and with love and actually developed them as a family, for starters, why did they go with the option of, oh yeah, let's just use Omen as a punching bag, like we don't really care what happens to Omen? I'm sorry, do you not want your son to have the best possible backup who will be there for him through thick and thin, his twin? Like, why have you not made them like a thing where they're strong together? Because then, when they're strong together, right, he's no longer going to kill the Darkland, the dude, I can't remember.
Yeah,
Instead,
Prince of
the two of them, like, yeah, sure, he's fulfilled that prophecy, and there's two of them, and they're damn good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still teenagers. You could ride on that. Oh, you need a hand. You want people helping. Boys, do you want to help? And they could have connections through. Like, it's just stupid.
But the thing is that their dad turns around to Omen, doesn't it, and goes, "Oh, you could never be like part of the Sanctuary Police or whatever it is because you will always be in Olga's shadow and you will never be as good as him." And it's like, but he's damn good at what he does, and he in the end helps in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher in
Sorry, I can hear my flatmate sneeze. Did you hear it? Because it was really fucking loud. All right, sweet.
Yes,
She's 2 floors up.
But his teacher in like their version of PE, like he can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what he does. He teaches kids in a world which is fucking violent to defend themselves and to attack if need be. And he's like, "Kid, you're good. Like this is what I do. Yeah, I've trained your brother. You're good.
Yeah.
Like show me that you're good. Show me what you can do." Like he's had all this. They could have done so.
Yep. The parents are the worst. Absolutely worst. And the thing is, that's why it was right upset me so much in the last book that there was the babysitter / tutor that was fucking with Omen too. Because I was like, can he not just have one adult that isn't a dick in his entire life? And so now he's got his like wrestling teacher, which I appreciate, but still.
This is why I keep on saying he needs to go to the Edgeleys, because the Edgeleys they'd give him a good meal and a nice home and he'd be very happy.
And they would actively encourage him not to do any of the violent things. But then when he turned out to do the violent things and be pretty decent at them, they'd be like, well, shit, you good.
No shit. I
remember that back when Val was your age, we gave her a gym membership. Do you want one?
Like, yeah, do you want one? My thing with that though is the fact that he is the reason, and I'm saying that with air quotes because I feel like this is how he feels about it. He is the reason Alice was kidnapped, and he is the reason that not only was Alice kidnapped, but used as a bargaining chip and then had to be killed. Like, there were moments around that were completely out of his control. But could you live in the house of the family knowing that you were partially responsible for losing someone's soul and being kidnapped? I don't know if I could face them.
True. But then at the same time, like, he's a literal child. I don't care what Val was doing.
No, even Val at the time, Even
Yeah.
Val was just like, no, you're a kid. Like, and we all felt that in that moment. And that was what's so great about Derek Landy's goddamn writing. It annoys me how good he is, you know, is the fact that in that moment, yeah, he's doing something and you can see how scared he is. And then you're like, he's a child. He is a literal child.
Because you sometimes forget that about Valkyrie in the first series, that she's a child because she's so mature about it. And she's sort of all grown up with it because she's sort of forced to grow up quickly, whereas Omen sort of is forced to grow up quickly, but he's still
in a very different way. He's forced to grow up in maturity in some aspects of kind of like accepting that life isn't fair. Like, there's lots of different ways that you can grow up. You can grow up knowing, like, grow up as in before your time. You can do this by knowing, like, how to look after a house and a home if your parents aren't able to, whether through inability, through, like, having to work, or just being shit parents. You can learn that life is shit. You can learn how to take punches and make jokes with older people. Like, it's very different branches of growing up early that you can do, and he's just went through the vibe of, yeah, life is fucking shit. I'm just gonna go with it. Whereas Val went with, like, haha, I can beat people up and make jokes with older people. And it's just, they're both older than their age, just in two very different ways. Speaking of Val, the music box.
Yeah.
I am so glad that they've actually, like, addressed it, and they actually addressed her depression, her PTSD, things like this, and they actually tried to help her. And they didn't wait for her to come to them. They went, no, something's wrong. We're going to help. It was like, they finally learned that Valkyrie does not say anything unless it's the end of the world.
And I like that. It's a pity that it took them until the music box broke. But at the same time, because she hides everything, they kind of needed something like stark for them to be like, oh shit. Like, because she has always been able to joke like the adults do. And as adults, we know that's a coping mechanism. Like, making all these jokes is a stupid coping mechanism. We all know it's a coping mechanism, and that's why we all kind of vibe with it. But they don't, like, she's just a child. She learned to do that not as a coping mechanism per se, but to fit in. And therefore, she doesn't use it as a coping mechanism. That's just who she is now, which is fine. But then she doesn't have the coping that comes with it. So they're like, oh shit, like, she's just crashed. Like, randomly. And it's like, no, she stopped using the drugs that she was using to cope with her intense PTSD, anxiety, depression, etc. And now you've noticed. Now, that happens in real life too. Yeah, like, people that don't notice until suddenly you have to go cold turkey. But I did like the way that Skullduggery and Tanith kind of, even though they should have noticed earlier, as soon as they did notice, they were like, right, what can we do? We can train her, because we know that she enjoys it, that she'll find it useful, that it is something that will be useful, so she has to concentrate. And getting her to concentrate on anything other than what's in her head is good. So I did like that. Yeah.
I liked that the coping mechanism was an actual mechanism, like a literal physical thing. Because I was like, what a clever use of metaphor, Landy. You clever, clever man.
I hadn't thought of that, but you know damn well that he did.
Well, this is the thing. I am going to the signing at Bath, I think, on the 17th of April, I think, for until the end. And I am excited. But mainly because I have so many things that I just want to say to his face. But mainly it's going to be Derek Landy, what a man. And that's it. And then I'll just walk away. I'll be like, your books, chef's kiss, and then leave.
Work out a really nerdy reference to do with that, say it to him, and walk off and see if he gets it.
Speaking of which, nerdy references, I have the direct quote here that I have saved on a little bit of paper because it tickled me. Luke Skywalker, and on page 66, and I hope we don't get sued. Like, I love that. No, we will call him by his name and hope we don't get sued. All right, Derek Landy, put yourself in as Skullduggery. Why don't you?
That was so good.
But like the thing is, like in the context that they gave him that name is like they can't really be sued about it because they've used it as like a social reference, and it.
Clever man.
But also,
Because like if you do music song, like if you do like music lyrics, you can pay up to £10,000 per lyric, depending on what it is. Whereas certain references you can just make as references and not be charged for them. So the fact that it is a cultural reference as opposed to like "May the Force be with you," etc., can't be sued. Can't be sued. It's genius.
Like, and it's not just a reference for us; it's a reference in world as well. Like it's supposed.
They have Star Wars in their world. Like, how exciting is that?
He is just calling himself after his favorite fictional character. We knew that would happen, and it wouldn't have the same impact if he like made up like a fictional character, like a Luke Skywalker. It only works if you use one that we have too, and so they can't really.
But the thing is, as well, it makes you wonder just how many other people have done that over the years. How many people? There's got to be some guy who thought he should have been a villain, who called himself Darth Vader and was just pathetic.
Or didn't realise that Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader, had only seen Phantom Menace, like hadn't seen any of the others or something like that. And that film really spoke to them. I feel like if you were going to name yourself after a fictional character as like your name to protect yourself, what name would you go for?
Doctor Strange.
Valkyrie Kane.
Right, you guys are so predictable. So predictable. Actually, no, that's not entirely true. With Becca, I assumed you would go for Wanda or something like that, or Scarlet Witch, as opposed to the way you said Doctor Strange like that, though, like fucking killed me. But Valkyrie Kane, Abby, I knew it. I knew it was coming. I knew it was at the forefront when we were talking about them. I understand that she's at the forefront of your brain, but if you want to take more than a second to think about it and give me a decent answer, you let me know.
Myra Palador.
That's fair. That's fair.
To be fair, I have named my character for the Magical Readathon Valkyrie, so I do go.
But, like, those are the two main characters of my favorite series are Myrad and Val. So like, which one do you want, Matt?
A mixture of the both, maybe.
And, like, my favorite Marvel character wouldn't work.
Why?
Well, because I can't call myself Captain America because I'm fucking British.
I think you can, and I think the irony of that would be very amusing.
But then everyone would just call me Captain.
No,
Miss America.
You'd be Cappy. I'd call you Cappy.
Or I'd be Steve.
Interesting.
Which, in this day of being very open and welcoming with pronouns, as shown by the fact that all of us have got our pronouns here, it's just gonna confuse people. I can't, like, that's just they're gonna assume that I'm a he, and I'm like, no, I'm just.
Hi, I'm Steve. She, her.
Like, if you watch Miranda, her best friend is female and called Stevie. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. That's because Stevie is quite upper class like nickname for people, and I think it's either short for like Stephanie or something like that. But Stevie works.
I could be Peggy Carter.
You could be Peggy Carter.
yeah.
Or I could just, be Abby. Hi.
Hi, Abby. Hi.
Abby, hi. I mean, like, I'm imagining like someone loving Doctor Who and calling themselves either Doctor Who, so it's like, Mrs. Who, or the Doctor. In which case, for starters, if they get a PhD, Doctor, nice to meet you. Secondly,
Doctor.
if you're just like casually talking, being like, Hannah, shut up, right there, will you listen?
The
or the.
Speaking of nicknames and all the rest of it, I mentioned this to Abby the other day, but no one has called skullduggery as an insult Sherlock Bones yet.
I know, what a waste.
I know, I'm just sitting there going, how has no one called him Sherlock Bones yet?
It needs to be in a moment where he's just pointed out something that should have been like really obvious, like a clue to. And the thing is, he doesn't really do that. He doesn't really point out the obvious because he likes to assume you're not a moron until proven otherwise.
Unless he's dealing with people who aren't like Val or in the Dead Men and stuff, and then he does assume they're fucking stupid.
Yeah,
So
but he doesn't like patronize them though. I feel like they're very specific people. Like maybe he might with those the guards that are like dickheads.
Or like with the kids in Arrival Academy. Like that is someone where it's not patronizing to point out the obvious because they are children and he's like 500 years old. So
I would also love
say
for him
something
to do
super
it.
obvious.
I would love for him to do it as like a fake ID type thing. It's like, are you Skullduggery Pleasant? Oh no, I'm Sherlock Bones. I just feel like that would work really well.
They've got to go to some sort of fancy dress party, and he goes as Sherlock Holmes, and Valkyrie's like Sherlock Bones.
Wait. The thing is, if he did call himself Sherlock Bones, can anyone in the magical community who is not distinctly familiar with the shape of this man's head be sure that there is not another walking, talking skeleton in the magical world? No. Ergo, Sherlock Bones would actually be quite a good...
If he decided one day to lose the three-piece suit, not that he ever would, but swap it for corduroy and tweed, would you know it was him?
I could see him putting on a deerstalker and Val being like, the fuck is on your head? And him being like, fashion.
Fashion. Heard of it?
And he's got the pipe and she's like, you can't breathe. He's like, aesthetic.
The thing is, he can control air, so I just like the idea of him having a pipe, but it's one of those ones with bubbles.
Him just deciding to be like, I'm not breathing it in, but I can make it look like I am. He could get the smoke and have the smoke go around his skull and come out his eyes.
That would look so sinister.
It looks so good with like kids at Halloween and be like sitting as like one of those fake skeletons on like a porch or something, and then just blows smoke out.
Halloween must be like the most fun time for him because he just sits outside and then just occasionally like that would just freak people out. Like not even necessarily making a sound, just kind of like tilting his head.
And the kids would see him and be like, Dad, skeleton moved! And Dad's like, skeleton didn't fucking move. It's cold, get to the house.
Yeah.
But the thing is as well is, can you imagine if he'd been a skeleton when he had kids and reading them the bedtime stories with the pipe and the bubbles or something?
I would absolutely watch like a BBC or CBBC bedtime with Skullduggery as Sherlock Bones, reading a Sherlock story with a cravat and overcoat and a pipe.
Only if he insults the story the entire time.
Or it just goes, well, that's just totally unrealistic. Why would she do what her stepsisters tell her? Why not just leave?
It would be like, have either of you read The Hogfather?
Yes.
Well, when Susan's reading the story to the kids, and she's going like, and then Jack and the Beanstalk got away with this despite the fact that he had committed like arson, theft, and all that. He just goes completely away with it and things like this. And that's how I'd imagine him reading a bedtime story.
Or very Morticia Adams, where he's just kind of like my favorite clip of her is when she's reading to him, oh, they live. Like it's so good.
Yeah. Or
I could see him doing that.
Or would it be better if he was on the Muppets or Sesame Street teaching kids about the different bones in the body? Because
so many possibilities. If Skullduggery had decided to become a TV figure, he'd have been great.
Yeah,
he wouldn't do the bones of the body, but he would if he was like forced through losing a bet or like through some sort of like favor for someone, stand there and be like, this is very undignified. As someone's like, this is the femur, and he's like, this is ridiculous.
It'd be like that episode of Bones where she ends up on the equivalent of Bill Nye the Science Guy, and she's wearing that outfit.
Yeah,
I love that episode.
Love, such a great time. But I now imagining him as a TV star or film star, the only person that I feel could truly capture his energy is Benedict Cumberbatch.
This is
Like
what
that's like I just
saying.
can't unsee it now.
Because to me, Skullduggery is like the perfect blend of Sherlock and Doctor Strange. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
and he's always describing his deep voice and the cheekbones, and I'm like, well, he's
Well,
there.
I don't even necessarily mean him as like his characters, although Sherlock is very like, but just like the way he is in interviews and
Yeah.
like on the red carpet. Like my favorite clip from like the Oscars the other day, other than the obviously very prolific one, is the bit where someone has where their house is like opposite where the red carpet was. And like they were just kind of like recording, and out of like nothing, Benedict Cumberbatch just kind of like looks up, spots them, and waves. Like doesn't know these people, was just really excited to spot other people, and it was just so cute. And I can so imagine Skullduggery doing that, just kind of being like, oh,
That's just the sort of thing that shows that he's not like Benedict isn't too stuck up, because that is the same thing that any standard Brit would do. I have no idea about anyone from any other nationality, but you put a British person on a carpet where they're getting photos taken of them, where they're already like, well, might as well make the most of it, and they see someone else, they're going to be like, eh.
Yeah, on a bus, classic.
If
I will wave back every time. Every time.
If Benedict Cumberbatch had been raised lower class rather than upper class, he wouldn't have waved back. He would have went, "Hey!"
Yeah, for sure. It's like I've seen clips, like there have been loads of clips recently where people that like tout for signatures and stuff, as opposed to like actual fans, have been like harassing him, and he basically told one to go fuck themselves the other day, and I was like, fair enough, because like you see him with like all the fans and stuff, and like his face like drops because he like looks over because obviously they're shouting at him, and it's just like, he just looks really like disappointed, and just like getting rude about it.
Have you seen the clip of him at the Spider-Man No Way Home premiere where he escaped security? Because he just legs it down where all the fans are screaming, and he's just like,
literally a man-child. I love him.
Just like, I'm so jealous of your wife.
The first interview I ever heard of him was, I think, maybe it was something he did before Sherlock, but it was something that like I had seen him in Atonement, I think, or something similar to that, where he plays like this really creepy guy who basically like sexually assaults someone and then marries her later on, so she can't like testify against him. And he rocked up late to the interview, and then was like, I didn't know where to park my motorbike, so I've just brought it inside. Is that okay? And that's how the interview started. And I was like, I don't know who this person is, but he's amazing. And then they were like, oh, it's Benedict Cumberbatch. And then I associated him with the creepy film and was like, oh.
But the thing is that the amount of chaotic stories, because once he managed to lose a friend in a cinema and he had like loads of security trying to find them, turns out he was in the wrong cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like this. And it's sort of like, you know, he's fiercely intelligent because you hear him talk and you're like, you are a really intelligent, highly educated man, but he
just has no common sense.
There's like high intelligence, low wisdom.
Yeah. Lots of D&D reference. Yeah.
He is also, apparently, I know too much, he's my favourite actor. I'm obsessed. But he's also the one that all of his friends go to when they need advice and things like this, because he's friends with Tom Hiddleston, Dan Stevens, Eddie Redmayne, all the rest of them. And then when they're I'm having a too famous moment, we'll go phone him kind of thing. But at the same time, he's a complete idiot.
Yeah, he is.
Burst into dance at any moment.
You can tell he's friends with those people because when he's in interviews with, like, when he was put in with Tom Holland, for example, and the fact that the sheer number of times it was like, and it's not like rude, right? And it's that sort of thing you would do with someone who you know quite well or feel comfortable with. It's just
this is the thing. Like, I'm also wondering, because again, this is like mainly American audiences that are going to watch these interviews, because it was for No Way Home, I'm assuming, which I've not seen. Just so both of you know.
The DVD's out on the DVD is
Becca?
out on Monday. Watch it.
Becca, you know full well that I'm going through chronologically. Wait, we just finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier last night. Wait.
You didn't tell me.
I had a migraine. It was bad enough having to watch it.
Guys, let's not have a domestic here. What were you saying, Abby?
We'll have it after the live. Anyway, what was you... So, is that something that Americans do? Or is that just British? because it feels very British.
Well, the thing
What's
But-
Americans?
but-
Oh,
well, see,
I was like,
No.
what? What are you talking
so
about?
the
British.
amount of
Like,
Americans and people who don't get his sense of humor, because he'll sit there and make a very British joke, and people go, "Oh, he's so rude." And it's like, no, that is classic British humor.
That's just being a
oh my
Brit,
God, I
yeah.
can't believe Tom isn't insulted, and every Brit's there like, that wasn't insulting.
Or like when they gave
fucking
them
hilarious.
Infinity Gauntlets while they were in interviews, and his immediate thing was to put his middle finger up to Tom Holland, you know, and it's
Classic
just like,
Brit.
yeah, it was just that is your immediate thought.
And the Americans are like, that's so offensive, and the Brits are like, do you have friends?
Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's just how you say hi, you
Mm.
know, and things like this. It was that proper like big brother moment because they've worked on like 4 films together now, so they are sort of like brothers at this point. So he will just insult him, and Tom just goes, "Yeah, up yours." So it's sort of like that kind of thing.
No, I think it is definitely a Brit thing because I think it's almost like tutting but not aggressive. You know, I want to hear someone tut more. We don't hear enough tutting anymore. People are too shouty. I want to hear more tutting, just in general. Whereas I feel like Europeans would just be like, shh. Like it would just be like a short, sharp no.
Continental Europeans, yeah.
Right?
I don't know about the
whereas
Irish, because Irish are pretty similar with us. Which is
no,
why we get
Irish will
along with
go
us.
the opposite way, where it won't be short and sharp. It'll be like it will be a long, drawn out noise, or like
So it would be the same as but just one noise instead.
like yeah, just like an elongated noise.
So we go
I don't know what
and then
this
like
is.
bah.
Yeah, it will be like that. But no, I agree. But yeah, so you describing him as like a Sherlock Bones figure. If they were ever to do a film or TV series, I would need at least him as like a cameo or like flashbacks to like his real face was Benedict Cumberbatch, because I just can't unsee it. And it's taken a while, right? Because I don't know if I've really thought about fan casting prior to this. I don't know who I would have as Valkyrie.
I was just about to ask. Like, I don't really
Millie
do.
Bobby Brown?
No, I can't stand her as an actress or as a person.
Oh, I quite like Stranger Things, so
She doesn't feel like I've only seen one episode of Stranger Things, the first one.
I'm literally wearing
But
a
just from like
t-shirt right
interviews and stuff I've seen, she doesn't feel right for Val.
now. No.
I don't see. I know that she did obviously the whatever it was, young Sherlock, not Sherlock.
Oh,
film.
Enola Holmes.
Enola Holmes, that was it. Yeah.
Awful in terms of accuracy.
I can't get over just how many clips, out of context and in context, there are of Millie Bobby Brown with the Stranger Things cast of her talking over other girl character actresses. Like the boys, she like jokes around with, but there's the redhead girl whose name completely escapes me. There are so many clips where she will be speaking and Millie will do whatever she can to draw attention back to herself. And she's so like abrasive with it. I just find her really irritating.
In some ways, though, I do wonder if that's how part of how she's being raised. Because me and my best friend were actually having this conversation a couple of years ago now, but it feels very much like her parents push her a lot in terms of making her sort of like Omen and Olga's parents, to bring it back to Skullduggery. It feels sort of like that, and they've sort of, because both of her parents have like quit their jobs by the sounds of it, and they're relying on her solely.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe she's on the Lindsay Lohan. Like,
no, I don't think it's Lindsay Lohan. For me, it feels more like Leah Michele from Glee. Like it's that where their career becomes their everything. They don't do anything else. But for me, it's the internalized misogyny of only interrupting other female cast members.
She needs someone to bring her back to reality.
But she won't have anyone that does that, and it won't really happen. And she will either work it out on her own, like Emma Watson did, for example, or she won't, like Kim Kardashian didn't. Like it will just be what it is, you know. And she will have a phenomenal career regardless of whether I fan cast her and shit. So it doesn't really matter. But just as a thing, like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of the things where, like, because I get so very specific about like authors behaving well when I'm promoting their books. I kind of want actors to do the same. They don't have to be good people all the time. I just don't want to see them being a dick in interviews.
Yeah, the guy who plays, I'm gonna forget his name now. He's a Hobbit and he's also John Watson.
Martin Freeman.
Yeah, Martin Freeman.
Apparently he's a massive knob.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no,
he divorced his wife
no,
shortly after The Hobbit.
No, they never were together. And again, I know too much. It sounds more like she broke up with him. Because
But I've heard that he was really misogynistic to his kids.
Yeah,
saying
no,
that women couldn't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, there are clips from interviews from like years ago where he's basically slating her career, and she went on to like a radio show to talk about it because he was like really like he's just like not a nice person, and the more prolific he got, like Sherlock was one thing, when he got The Hobbit, apparently he became like a real dick, and he just didn't handle like fame very well at all.
Yeah, so apparently he's a right knobhead, which is annoying because I like John Watson. And I
like The Hobbit.
Not seen it yet, but I plan to.
It's a good time. To be fair, Martin Freeman just plays himself. He just does like the same act, like he's the same character as he was in The Office, and in like even like the Nativity, for example. He just plays grumpy, put upon Brit.
Apart from in Black Panther.
Okay, yeah, it's the one time. Actually, that's not true. He's also in Argo. Where he plays an absolute psychopath. But other than that, also this blanket is so cozy. When I like tucked myself up earlier, I spotted Abby giggling at me, but I just want you to know how cozy this blanket is.
It's too warm in here for a blanket.
Skullduggery Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Becca cannot do what I'm about to say, so this is only for you, Hannah.
Okay, interesting.
Well, we usually do this, and I'm usually sat there.
Oh, were we like okay.
Predictions, Mademoiselle.
Okay.
Oh,
So, I mean, we could have done it with Becca, but me and Becca have read it, so.
You've read it. Okay,
again.
Yeah, you do the blurb, and then I will tell you some things.
Okay, so. In a matter of days, the world will change. Billions of lives will be wiped away in a final desperate search for the child of the Faceless Ones, she who is destined to bring about the return of humankind's ancient overlords. To prevent this, Skullduggery Pleasant and Valkyrie Kane have one last terrible option: the assassination of Damocles Creed. Okay. With protests stirring in the magical city of Rawhaven, with riots and revolutions on the horizon, Valkyrie must decide who she wants to be: the hero who risks everything for a noble ideal, or the killer who sacrifices her own soul for the fate of humanity. The decision must be made, and time is running out. Okay, so one thing we haven't covered with regards to season is the massive decline in the last couple of chapters of China. I think the riots and things are going to be church related, and that she is losing all, if not quite a lot of her power. Now, unfortunately, because my brother is a dickhead, I know how the book ends. I just don't know how it gets there. You know about that at the end bit?
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting for someone to know about that for fucking ages.
Abby, I told you 3 books ago that I knew, because my brother had already finished it by that point.
I didn't want to risk anything else, but still, now all of us know about the end inside the book.
But like I said, I don't know how it gets there because I've not read it yet. But I know what happens in the last chapter. I know what happens at the end, basically. So I have theories unrelated to that, but they are mostly around China. I don't know anything about this Damocles Creed. I think that Crepuscular is going to take Omen down a really bad route. I think something is going to happen related to that. I don't know if Tanith will bring up the vial thing with Skullduggery, but possibly. And I kind of want Never to get in the fucking sea. But I don't think
unfortunately, Never doesn't go for a swim. I can reveal this.
What is the phrase? A long walk off a short plank.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
So that's your predictions about China. was that she's going to lose control.
I think she's losing control because like there was like, I can't remember what happens. There's a chapter towards the end. It's like the second to last or last chapter where they discuss very briefly that there is something wrong with China. And I don't know if she's being hypnotized or manipulated or she's just tired, but something is happening to her and her seat of power is crumbling. And especially because she holds so much power.
Abby, I'm going to message you something quickly here because...
Isn't it what?
I'll continue with my other things. So that's what you think about China. Then combining kind of Crepuscular and Omen, you think that Crepuscular is going to lead Omen down some sort of dark path?
I think, okay, so at the moment, Omen only sees him as like his helper. Like he knows he's a killer or capable of violence, but he doesn't know anything else about him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because he's such a wholesome little bean, I think that is either going to relate to him, not necessarily in this book dying, but something happening to him where he starts making the wrong choices because the people who could have helped him make the right choices are no longer available. Now, obviously, something to do with Seraphina is going to kick off because that has been setting up with Flannery for ages. So I don't know what's going to happen there if something happens there. Flannery can also get in the fucking sea, but I do find his chapters somewhat entertaining.
In that sort of, oh god, this is kind of a bit too real.
Yeah. Although I hope it has a far more dramatic ending than just, stepping down.
Becca, you're correct. I just checked.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah. So at the end of this book, because she wasn't sure if it was the beginning of the next one, China's in a coma.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so
Sorry, you made it sound like she was still alive.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, she is still alive, Becca.
Yeah, awake.
Yeah, but so this is what I mean. So, like, yeah. I can't remember how I worded it now. Huh?
Yeah, because Creed.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Is, but I feel like, that's so church related. Like, I don't know how I've worded this, but I'm trying to like, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think she's going to wake up. I don't think her seat of power as it stands is going to stand. Do you know what I mean? I don't think with Creed in place, I think the church, either the church is going to just wholly take over and there won't be like state and church. There will just be state or just church. Do you know what I mean? Or it will be very kind of like Protestant versus Catholic, where there will be a split in the church and there will be Seraphina's church versus another kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's just a case of whatever it is they've done to China continues to then poison the rest of it. Because we don't actually know why she's in a coma, do we? We never find out. We just know that she's in a coma.
Yeah, we don't know specifically what's up with her. And they're like, oh, we're doing research into it.
But that's my thought, is I think because we've seen her lose her temper way more. She's been far more aggressive. Like we've seen like really out of character behavior from her. And I don't know what it is that's caused that. But I think that, what I'm trying to say is I think that is a symptom of whatever the bigger problem is going to be.
Cool. So that's China. That's Omen and Crepuscular.
Mm-hmm.
Tanith, I think you mentioned as well.
I don't know if something's going to happen with her regarding what she knows about Vile / skullduggery, but I doubt it. I doubt that that's something like she's an assassin. Like if anyone's not going to hold a grudge about how many people someone's killed, props her.
I'm going to leave the two main characters to last as I'm going through characters here.
Mm-hmm.
What about Sebastian Tao and the whole Dark S thing?
I think probably we would just see him kind of like raising the baby, but not really. Like I feel like there's going to be like time jumps where she's like 1 minute she's like 3 weeks old, the next minute she's 3 months old, because being 3 weeks old was really boring, and like things like that. And I feel like it's just going to be like, in Supernatural. You guys have seen Supernatural, right?
I have.
Abby hasn't. Okay, so there's like this essentially demon child who grows very, very quickly because she just has so much power within her. I kind of imagine it's going to have that kind of thing, but I can't really. Huh?
Which character's that one?
It's God's sister, whatever her name is.
Oh, Amara.
Amara.
Yeah, I was thinking of Jack.
Oh no! So way before that.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Do you think that Sebastian's going to attempt to raise her, attempt being
The key word
emphasized
there.
by yourself, and that she's going to skip through ages?
Yeah.
And like get older quicker than she should.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And I think that will probably be the scenes of levity, and then something super dark will happen.
What about Alice and the Edgley parents?
They were barely in this book.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't know if the fact that Valkyrie is distancing herself again from her family is gonna cause the ending.
What do you think about Melitza and Valkyrie's relationship, though? Where do you think that's going to go?
That's a very leading question, and you know it.
Wait, what was the question? I wasn't listening.
She asked me about Melitza.
Oh, that's cute.
I said nothing.
No, but anyway, Abby said that of cartoon characters or fictional characters, I remind you of Melitza, and I liked that. That made me happy.
Well,
And then I messaged you about her.
Yeah.
No, Melitza's a babe. I would like for my prediction for Melitza is that she gets a promotion, basically becomes the McGonagall of the school, and slowly but surely makes Omen's life just so much better in every conceivable way.
Could she adopt Omen?
Right?
Like Miss Honey does to Matilda. Just goes, right, both of you boys are now mine.
Mm-hmm.
You're living with me.
So, and then before we go on to, I think that's like every main character, kind of like
Key ones, yeah.
amongst the others. So then before we go on to Val and Skullduggery, you think that either church and state will combine, or church and state will stay separate, but there'll be like Protestant Catholic shenanigans.
Well, there's riots, right? So I know there's going to be something related to that. I assume that it's going to be related to the church.
Then you think that Crepuscular is going to make the most of Omen's willingness to be helpful. You think that Darkess is going to be raised by Sebastian.
Yeah.
That she's going to jump through the different time points. You think that Val is drawing even further away from her family. And you think that Melitza, which I say wrong every single time, and I say differently every single time, is going to get a promotion and become McGonagall.
Yes. I also believe that she's going to win the lottery, have plenty of holidays, and eventually her and Fletcher are going to start a podcast talking about their travels.
And don't forget that she's going to have clear skin.
Oh, that was without saying. Like, obviously, clear skin. She never has to wash her hair. It always looks great. It always looks freshly done. And her nails just... For some reason, the cuticles are just always so beautifully white. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just all of it great.
Well, I was going to say then, speaking of Fletcher, don't you think Melitza and Fletcher should have some sort of weekly meeting of, we've both dated Valkyrie? What? Did she do this with you? What's the stupidest thing she did this early on in the relationship?
I think it's one of those things where, like, there's no way they don't talk about it in the staff room. But it won't be like did she do this with you? It will be like Fletcher will walk into the staff room and Melitza will be there, like over her coffee, just kind of staring into space. And Fletcher will go, "Is Valkyrie away?" And she'll be like, "Oh, how can you tell?" He's like, "Because you're doing the same stare I did." Like, and it will be like things like that where it's not necessarily like Valkyrie's behavior, because Valkyrie is very different from like when she was like teenage dating versus like I'm in an adult sapphic relationship. Yeah. But it will be that I kind of imagine from Rent, like the Tango Maureen type thing, where they're like both of them are seeing their own behaviors mirror rather than hers.
Yeah.
But also Fletcher's trying to make a move on Tanith, so
Again.
that's so cute.
What do you think is going to happen with Val and Skullduggery. The two main players. What do you think?
Two main players. Well, I think I have a strong suspicion that Valkyrie will say something sarcastic and probably punch someone in the face. And I feel like Skullduggery.
Not to spoil you, but you're right on that one.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool. I also think that Skullduggery will say something he thinks is funny that no one else laughs at, and then also wear a three-piece suit. So again, I'm right? Nail on the head.
You missed driving a ridiculous car.
It's not a ridiculous car, it's a sexy car.
As Skullduggery would say.
As he would say. I love a Bentley. Bentley's great. What else? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, because I think with those two, they swap between who's going to be morally grey and who's going to bring the other one out of the moral greyness. So obviously with this one, it was Valkyrie bringing Skullduggery out. Maybe Skullduggery will have to like return the favour. Maybe one of them will be super, super injured. It does say dead or alive, so who can tell? What I do know is basically straight after this live stream, I will be going and reading the next one, because I'm not waiting. And then I'm going to push Lizzie to finish it so that we can have the next live stream soon.
And then
I know I said next month, but I might not be able to wait until next month.
Good, because me and Becca, we love you very much, but we have already agreed that we're not waiting to read until the end.
Then why didn't you say that? Like, okay, so for context for those watching, I have a group chat where I said to people, like, okay, what about these dates? And you guys were like, okay.
To be fair, Becca did say, but I'm reading it anyway, and I was like, it's implied I'm going to.
That's fine. So then you are waiting.
I want to know, are you going to read this? Because me and Becca.
Yes.
This is what
so
we're
my
going to read.
thought is, next week. Interesting.
Yeah, we start probably Monday.
Well, because basically, yeah, we were thinking of starting it on Monday, just to kind of like make sure that we're through it before until the end, just in case like if we have to like delay it or whatever.
Okay. See, my thought was that I would read it afterwards.
After until the end. See, this is like a recap of everything from the first one to the 14th one, with something else running through it. So I would not recommend, like, I've read this already, for anyone who's watching. Yes, I've read them all already. The only thing I've not read is fucking until the end.
It's fucking until the end. We're fucking until the end, are we, Abby?
You're welcome
Talk about Sherlock Bones.
Fucking until the end with Sherlock Bones. Hannah, you know what you have to do.
Read it.
Write it.
Oh.
Write fucking until the end.
Fucking until the end with Sherlock Bones.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah, so this I wouldn't say to read, like, obviously I've not read until the end, but I wouldn't say to read it after, because I bet that there's going to be stuff in until the end that's like going to reference stuff. Like, that's Landy's favorite thing, is to reference things.
That's fair.
So
I've just realised I have no idea where my edition is.
But yeah,
so basically I've moved all my hardbacks to like the top of all my shelves, so I'm just kind of like
trying to find it.
I think it's over there somewhere, but we'll see. Okay, so how about then I will speak to Lizzie about this. How about in 2 weeks time, because I'm in Disneyland next weekend, so I can't do it next weekend. In 2 weeks time we do Dead or Alive, and then 2 weeks after that we do Grimoire, because around that time we will have finished until the end.
Very excited.
So if we do it in like 2 week breaks,
and this is actually a really good like wrap up of everything. Like, it does it really well. I read it when we were at like book 6 or 7.
Okay.
So for those first few, obviously we just read them, so they were fresh in my brain. And I'm reading this wrap up, and I'm like, that actually covers like pretty much everything you need.
Does it explain? Does it explain the random rune out of nowhere? The one that you mentioned earlier that you're like, oh, that has not been like fully.
Oh, the one with not that I remember. But it does everything else. So like, if anyone's watching and hasn't been doing the reread but has read all the books and is like, should I reread everything before until the end? Can I be asked? If you can't be asked, just read this. You get something extra in it as well, as it is a very good summary of the first 14.
And it should
I
be a
think-
reasonably quick read.
Huh?
And it should be a reasonably quick read because it's sort of mixed media, and I know that there's a 7-page comic in there.
Yeah, I think I read it all in one sitting.
So
We're gonna have fun with this, buddy,
the
read.
23rd. Oh no, that would be too soon because it comes out on the 14th, right?
Yeah.
So
And you need to give people time. Like, I know that me and Becca kind of race through these. So
no.
we need to
I'm
give everyone
thinking of these two. Right? So
Oh,
if we did Dead or Alive, the live show on the 16th, so the weekend after I come back from Disneyland, because I'm in Disneyland from the 7th to the 11th.
16. I am currently free at that point.
Sweet. So if we do Dead or Alive on the 16th, and then we do Grimoire on the 23rd, and then, or either we can do it on the 23rd or the 30th. Either can work because it'll be a shorter one anyway, because it'll just be recapping. And then 7th of May, if we do until the end.
Where we just cry through it.
Yeah, basically.
Just denial. Just flat out sitting there denying it.
Mm-hmm. Denying it. That's a word.
Well, I always say that I'll be living in so much denial. I'll be halfway up the Nile River. So,
Oh, okay.
That sounds like you. But yes, I've written it in my diary now, so now it's set in stone.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
So
I will
it can
inform
be
you.
changed, but it just means
I'm really
a lot
glad.
of
I'm really glad audiobooks exist because I've made those commitments, and now I'm like, I don't read that quickly. So
I mean, I know again that like it's a reread, so it's faster, and I read fast, but I do think Dead or Alive is a pretty speedy read.
There's so much happening.
Like it's like, you know, comparing it to the other skullduggeries, like some of them have been quick, some of them have not. I think this one is one that you'll get through at a decent pace. It's paced pretty well. So there's always something that's kind of bringing you back to want to keep on going.
yeah, fair.
So should be okay to get through it reasonably speedy.
Okay.
Until
Wow.
the end, it will just depend on how far we're putting it off because we don't want it to end.
I
Yeah.
am this close for until the end. So it comes out on the 14th,
It
which
does.
is a Thursday.
It is.
I am very close to taking a late start at work, starting at 9:30 and being stood outside. I have to pick up my copy from the shop.
Mm-hmm.
I made that decision when I was there. I don't fucking know why, but I'm this close to standing outside Waterstones at 8:55 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
getting my copy, coming home, going to work, doing as much work as I can manage, and then reading it.
See, I'm gonna just be sat like Gollum in front of my door, just going, "Give precious."
See, I should have done that because I live like a 5-minute walk away from the mail depot, so we get the parcels really early.
From the mail depot.
Yeah. Like the Royal Mail is just like there.
Well,
Like it's really close.
Well,
The
now
point-
I know where you live.
the
That's
thing
fine.
is that
No. Actually, Becca, I'm very sorry. I just need to address this. Hannah, you have my address.
I know. That was why I was joking. It was, yeah, that was why it was funny to me.
You already like you could just put.
I do
my-
actually know where you live.
Yeah. So if you put my address into Google, you'll be able to see the depot. It's really close.
Mm-hmm.
what I was saying is though is that obviously pre-orders can sometimes come in early,
They can.
and
Rarely though. Rarely.
I'm saying nothing in case I jinx it.
But I'm kind of wishing that I had because I was told I got the Goldsboro SFF book box. I signed up for that. And so I was told by Royal Mail, like, yeah, that'll arrive at some point between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Cue me lurching out of bed at 8:05 in the morning by bang, bang, bang. I'm like, hello, on my box. Because they're just like, it's just around the corner. We'll just drop it off. It's getting to the point where we know them now. And then I was startled to have a new delivery driver. It was a good thing because I'd just come out of the shower, so I was in a towel, and it was a woman, and normally it's a bloke. So I was like, thank God it's you. Just open the door on the chain, like, who is it?
Who is it?
Who are you? I'm the only one in the house. What do you want?
Don't tell people you're the only one in the house. It could be a murderer.
I mean,
Nah. Okay, well, I think we're going to leave it there before Abby goes into that spiral. Thank you so much for joining me and talking about this book. Is there anything you want to shout out before we disappear?
I've just put up a whole load of Bridgerton/Regency inspired stuff on my Etsy and Redbubble store if you're interested in that, if you are now missing Bridgerton like I am. Or the Duke.
Are you actually missing Bridgerton? Really?
Yeah.
Aww.
I love Bridgerton.
Did you ever watch Sanditon?
No.
Okay, we'll watch that, and I'm sure it will give you the same vibes.
Well, we're currently trying to watch The Gilded Age, which is the same sort of vibe as well.
Different era. It's not my
Yeah,
thing.
I know, but it's basically rich people sniping at each other. That's
No, but that's the thing. It's like, for me, it's Regency. You know, it's that.
Yeah, we've got some others on the list.
I've got a book idea that I want to run past you though before we when we're off live, before you disappear. Let me know what you think. Abby, anything you want to shout out?
If you want to see some more of my bullshit, then check out my channel. That's the channel name.
More of my bullshit. Great.
Look, I'm accurately advertising myself. They know what they're getting into.
That's fair.
Also, it's really blue.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, you look like you're in Twilight.
Yeah, the sun's
You've
been
got the blue
over
wash on you.
the roof of the house is opposite, so it's just very weirdly blue. I'll turn the light on in a minute.
Okay. Well, this has been fun. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.